I've always liked being alone. Not just quiet places, I mean real isolation. No signal, no people, no noise. So this time, I went deeper than usual. Farther than I probably should have. It took me hours to get there. By the time I stopped walking, everything felt cut off. No trails, no signs of anyone. Just trees and silence. At first, it felt perfect. I found a spot near a small stream, flat ground, good visibility. But something felt off. There were signs someone had been there before. Old firestones, an empty can, a torn piece of fabric. Nothing fresh, nothing recent. It looked like someone had just left. I didn't think much about it. People camp everywhere, right? As the sun went down, the forest changed. Not slowly, all at once. The sounds disappeared. No insects, no birds. Even the water sounded distant, like something was holding the sound back. That's when I felt it. That feeling, like you're being watched. I looked around. Nothing. But I couldn't shake it. I went into my tent early, tried to sleep. But something didn't feel right. I woke up in the middle of the night. No reason, just awake. And then I heard it. A step. Soft. Close. I held my breath. Another step. Slower. Closer. It wasn't random. It was controlled. Careful. Like someone was trying not to be heard. The sound moved around my tent. One full circle. Then another. Slow. Deliberate. Then it stopped. Right outside. Near my head. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. But I knew something. It knew I was awake. Then, the tent moved. Just slightly. A light touch from the outside, dragging across the fabric. Slow. Testing. And then it stopped. No footsteps, no sound, nothing. I stayed awake the rest of the night, just listening, waiting. Morning finally came, and I got out immediately. There was no one there, but the ground said otherwise. Footprints, barefoot, clear, all around my tent. Circles, over and over again. But something was wrong. They didn't lead in from one direction. They were everywhere. Like he had been there, long before I noticed. I followed them. I don't know why. I just did. And that's when I found it. A place, behind the trees, hidden. A makeshift bed. Old blankets. Empty bottles. Food wrappers. Someone was living there. Not camping. Living. And then it hit me. I didn't find this place. I walked into someone else's. My chest tightened. Everything started to make sense. The silence, the footsteps, the circles. He didn't just find me. He had been watching me. Since I arrived. I started packing immediately, fast, too fast. And then, I heard it again. A step, right behind me, close, very close. I froze, didn't turn around, not right away. I waited. 1 second, 2, 3. Then I turned. Nothing. But the trees were thick. Anyone could hide there. I didn't think anymore. I grabbed what I could and left everything else. I started walking, then faster, then running. And after a few minutes, I heard it. Behind me. Footsteps. Not running. Not chasing. Just following. Keeping distance. Matching me. Every time I slowed down, they slowed. Every time I moved, they moved. For minutes that felt like hours, until I finally reached the road. And just like that, the sound stopped. I turned around. Nothing. No one. I never went back. I never reported it. But there's one thing I still think about. He was outside my tent, all night, close enough to touch me, close enough to come in, and he didn't. The only question is, why?
I moved to a quiet suburb in Pennsylvania 2 years ago. It was the kind of neighborhood where nothing ever happens. My neighbor, Mr. Graham, was a man in his late 70s, a retired cop. He spent most of his days on his front porch, watching the street through a pair of binoculars. At first, I felt safe. He told me the first day we met, "Don't worry, son. I've got eyes on your place 24/7. In this neighborhood, you gotta know who's coming and going." I thought he was just a lonely old man looking out for me. I was wrong. Then came the comments. I'd get home from work and he'd say, "Saw you left the kitchen light on until 3 a.m. last night. Sleep is important, Mark." I'd laugh it off as old man curiosity. But then things started shifting. I'd come home to find my bathroom window locked tight, even though I clearly remembered leaving it cracked for ventilation. Or the milk carton in the fridge would be moved to a different shelf. When I asked Graham if he saw anyone entering my house, he'd just stare at me with those cold, pale eyes and say, "No one gets past me, son. Maybe you're just stressed. Work can play tricks on your memory." One freezing winter night, I lost my keys. Before I could even call a locksmith, Graham appeared with a spare. He said the previous owner gave it to him for emergencies years ago. That was the final straw. The next morning, I replaced every lock in the house with smart fingerprint access bolts. I didn't give him a key. At 2 a.m. that night, my phone buzzed. A notification from my Ring camera. Failed login attempt. I opened the live feed. It was Graham. He was standing at my front door, trying to force his old key into my new lock. His face wasn't that of a sweet old man anymore. It was blank, expressionless. Then he leaned into the camera and whispered, so low it chilled my blood, "You ruined the game, Mark. You shouldn't have changed the locks." The police arrived, but Graham had retreated into his house. While they were clearing my place, an officer found something behind the heavy dresser in my bedroom. A small, jagged hole in the drywall, perfectly hidden from view. That hole led to a narrow crawl space, a dark, cramped void that connected my house directly to his. He wasn't just coming through the door, he was coming through the walls. Inside that space, they found a sleeping bag, a set of headphones connected to microphones hidden in my ceiling, and thousands of photos of me sleeping, taken from that tiny hole over the course of a year. He wasn't watching the street, he was watching me. Graham was gone by the time they broke down his door. He had escaped through another tunnel he'd dug under his garden. The case is still open. And now, every time I hear a faint scratch or a creak behind the walls of my new home, I can't help but wonder, is he still protecting me? Or is he just waiting for me to fall asleep?
I've always loved escaping into nature, far away from the city, from the noise, the stress. I thought I'd found the perfect place, a quiet forest with tall trees, hidden trails, and a small lake. I arrived in the late afternoon. As the light faded, I started walking among the trees. The air was crisp, the forest incredibly still, almost peaceful. I felt calm, at first. Then I heard it, a rustling in the leaves just beyond the path. At first I thought it was a deer, or maybe a bird. But soon the sounds grew heavier, closer. Footsteps. Someone, or something, was moving through the forest behind me. My heart started racing. I tried to stay calm, but the path felt narrower with every step, the shadows longer, the trees closing in. I called out, hoping for an answer, but there was nothing. Only silence. Then came a sudden snap of a branch, just a few feet away. I froze, unsure if I should run or keep moving. Alone in this part of the forest, without a phone signal, I felt completely isolated, and more aware than ever of being watched. I finally decided to head back toward the main trail, each step filled with tension. I never saw anyone. There was no one there. Yet the feeling remained, heavy, pressing, impossible to shake. When I reached my car, I locked the doors and breathed a little easier. But the forest, it had left a mark. That night, I realized something. Sometimes, the quietest places can be the scariest of all. Even now, I can't shake that feeling, that someone or something was watching me, even if I never saw it.